One of the fun things for me when I attend the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and by the way, this is Rome, not Barcelona, we're just outside our media production studios, is meeting with the teams from IBM. Last year I spent my time with the IBM Artificial Intelligence team, but this year I spent almost the entire time with the Mobile Services team from IBM. This year they had a somewhat wacky movie in which it had 7 different endings, and the endings were based on what you chose as you watched the movie. The movie, in effect, integrated all of IBM's solutions in artificial intelligence, analytics, media maintenance, etc., in a most intriguing and interesting way. I had the opportunity to interview the IBM and Ogilvy advertising team that developed the concept and brought it into fruition. Before we came on camera, you guys gave me a pretty detailed look at what this program was all about. So for the audience, can you just kind of encapsulate what it is, how you got involved, your relationship with IBM?
So Outage is a new kind of interactive experience that showcase IBM Mobile Enterprise and show the different capabilities that can help any employee from any industry to be empowered and do their job quicker, faster, in a smarter way.
And the project itself took about how long to put together? I mean, this must have been a huge project.
I think it took about 6 months, 6 months for it to really start, from the briefing concept, from the idea of, what is mobile today? And I think what was great working together with the team was, from IBM, it's that IBM Mobile believes that mobile is not just a device, it's a very powerful decision-making tool that helps you to make those mission-critical decisions. So I think kind of inspired by that, we were thinking, does a B2B product demo have to be boring? Can it be something that is mission critical, that is action packed, that entertains as much as it informs, as well as really showcases the breadth and the depth of what the enterprise solutions can do? And so what IBM Mobile has, which is augmented with analytics, with cloud, with data, with IoT, etc., what we basically done is take that great skeleton of technology and basically just kind of put a really exciting and interesting layer of action on it.
Tell me what it is that the movie is going to put somebody through.
The user who's going to experience Outage online or here at the IBM booth at Mobile Congress is a 5 minutes long experience. You have 7 different versions of the movie. You have 4 decisions to take to help our heroine save the day.
But the plot line is?
Do you want to give that to me?
There's a citywide blackout, and this one engineer on her first day in this new job has to basically fight everybody's biggest fear, and the worst thing happens on your very first day at work. That's it. So she needs to battle the storm, her own fears, her insecurity, and all that to restore power to an entire city.
This is the first project in which the viewer, it's been a long day, the viewer is actually making decisions. So this is new. But you had told me that you had done something also with a movie for a different client.
We have done, the Ogilvy New York team has worked with Qualcomm a few years ago on a movie, and can't remember the name of the movie, but that was based on a film also to showcase some of the capabilities and solutions from Qualcomm.
And just to give the audience a little bit of color, can you give me a little background on what you do at Ogilvy?
Sure. So I'm an account director for the on the IBM worldwide team in the Ogilvy New York office. My role is to work with our partners and clients at IBM and to bring ideas like this one to life with our creative department, strategy, production, and web development teams.
And the same question to you.
So I'm a planner, a strategist, and basically what I do is try and take a thought and turn that into something that inspires the creative with a brief that's something that's as effective as it is creative, and basically, work with an amazing team to bring something like this to life.
And IBM was able to get, as the director of this movie, none other than Brad Turner, whom we all know as the director of the long-running TV series 24. And I had a chance to talk to Brad about what it was like to produce this movie. So before we had this chat before we came on camera, and we talked about your career, which most viewers will know. I wanted to know how somebody as well known, as famous as you, kind of got into this particular project.
I think the most important thing that drew me to this project was the actual idea that it's going to be user friendly. So the user is going to actually be involved in telling the story. And that's what really enticed me, because as a filmmaker, when you're making a story that's the user is basically changing and taking paths and changing the story.
Have you done something like this before, though?
Never. This is the first time I've done that, and that's why I came to this project. I came to this project because it was intuitive. It's kind of one of those things where there's kind of 7 films, and depending on what decision you make on behalf of the lead character, you're taking down a different route, a different set of story parameters. And that's, I think, what made it really interesting for me, because it's a different way of telling the story.
And this is fairly short. I mean, and you have to basically do what you're talking about, that creativity in a short space of time. Is that difficult to do when you don't have that long trail to be able to tell a story?
Well, it's an interesting challenge, because I think it's somewhere between a normal narrative film or television episode and a commercial. And I think the way you come into this is you decide, okay, I know I'm doing kind of a dramatization of a real situation, but with a commercial sensibility in terms of timing and storytelling. So in other words, you're taking giant leaps of time travel and things like that. You're hitting just the elements you need to hit in terms of telling the story. But the biggest challenge here is there's different storylines. So what I had to do was I had to analyze how it went together and how seamlessly it could go from one decision path to another. And it was very complicated.
How long did this take to put together?
It's interesting. It took 2 days to shoot it, but it took weeks to plan it and weeks to do the post-production on it.
And what size of a team do you need to put something like this together?
We basically had a size of a basic television episode for this, but it was only 2 days of production. I actually photographed it all myself because I am so aware of the way we used to do it on 24 that I operated the camera myself to give it the look that I needed to give it a look. And the interesting thing was that I think in 24 was all about pacing and style. So it was all about keeping the camera moving, keeping the actors talking quickly, and just making sure that the drama was held up. And it was interesting because I had never actually directed something that I shot myself.
Have you worked with these actors before?
No, we cast these specifically for this show. This was the first time these actors had worked at anything like this either. Because depending on which actor you see in the piece, they sometimes appear in the movie, depending on how the viewer chooses, and sometimes they appear only in text in the movie. So it's not only a different movie every time you choose the path, it's actually a different emotional movie, because at one point in time she contacts her sister, or her sister contacts her, and it's very emotional. And in the other path...
She's at the hospital. Yeah.
But in the other path, she just texts her and tells her there's a problem. So you don't actually meet the sister. So it's very interesting because even emotionally, it's different stories.
No, what was funny was this morning I went through it with a group 3 different times, and I said to myself, it's 3 totally different movies, but the scenes are obviously they overlap, but yet it's 3 different stories.
It's at least 3 different stories, and there's 7 movies possible, but of course we're using scenes from the paths you probably saw, but there's probably 1 or 2 scenes you haven't seen if you watch it for 3 different versions.
Do you think this kind of a concept would work with a longer timeline, or no?
I think it would. It would be interesting because just basic math tells you the multiples once you get to 4 decisions paths gets you at least 7 to 9 versions. So you can imagine if there was more decision paths and how that would branch out. But I think to answer your question, I think it would work, but I think it would work based on good or bad decisions. And so you could follow a character through. It's literally this is your choice. You have this or this, and then it takes two journeys that are totally different based on. And if people looked at their lives and they looked back at their life and said, in my life, I remember making this one decision that I feel like if I would have made that decision, my life would have been totally different.
It's the old Robert Frost poem.
Exactly. And I think that's the movie. The movie is the two lives. But the interactive value of that would be that once you're in the movie or on television or on your computer or however you're viewing it, you're actually choosing a movie that has these decision paths, which I think would probably work really well.
All right. Brad, I know you're a busy man today, so thank you very much for your time.
Oh, I appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure.
We've had a great conversation with Brad. We've had a pretty long conversation with Lynette and her colleague Olivier. Now, let's turn for a moment to what IBM gets out of this. Obviously, this is a pretty innovative, funky program, I'll be honest, for IBM. So when I came across it this time, I was thinking, I have to find out more about this. So what's the pitch for IBM?
Well, for us, we really wanted to say, our theme here at the conference is what if you could create a smarter future now, and said, how do you really make that real for a lot of our customers, for individuals? It's about the experience, it's about outcomes. So what if we could do an experiential activation? You're put in the driver's seat with Jillian, our heroine, making those choices, and how mobile is not just a thing, a technology, but how it can actually be used, showing driving outcomes, integrated to your processes, helping you make better decisions in the moment.
And did you guys have any impact with respect to the actual plot line of the movie, or was that all basically Brad and Ogilvy?
It was a great collaboration. I think we had the concept with the agency, with Brad, then we said, well, what does our technology really do? What are the key capabilities around integration with processes, apps designed for specific roles, security embedded, and then how do we bring that forward in a really compelling story and a narrative? And going back and forth with our agency and with Brad, we really crafted around this heroine, where technology is just a supporting cast member, if you will, and it's really about her and what she's able to do with mobile.
And what was interesting for me was the fact when I realized Brad was involved, knowing, having seen 24, he was like the perfect guy, it was the perfect situation. So, I imagine for IBM, you're pretty happy with the result.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone we've talked to so far at the conference, it's only day one, they've talked about it as a thriller, it's gripping, something unexpected, like you said, and where afterwards, if they really are curious, they're asking, okay, how did you really do that? What's the technology? We've got folks here, subject matter experts, who can take them through the mobile first for iOS apps and other pieces, but we're really pleased with the success of it.
Listen, I know you're busy, so we'll cut it short now, and I appreciate your time. All right. Yes.
I think this is one thing, Greg. I think IBM and Ogilvy have been working together for almost 20 years. And I think what this is really an example of is work that really just puts both the clients and the consumers' needs in there, because it's as effective as it is creative. And I think that's really what this does, and it's been unbelievable.
And might I have the last word? I know, having been to Cannes Lions almost every year now for the last several, creativity is what you guys do. I've seen some fabulous stuff down in Cannes, so I'm not shocked at all. So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, take care.
Thank you.